It's 10 o'clock. We might as well get started, and we'll have some interesting discussions and just go from there. But I know David told me he may be late, and that
Well,
he is.
uh, this is going to be difficult because I don't want to uh, disrupt anything because I'm going to have to run back and forth. My dryness in the
Sure.
eyes have been very problematic for me this morning.
Oh,
So
that's sad because
I'm telling you, this I've had this dry eye now for a long time.
part of the issue, Michael, is in the summertime you're spending you're running your air conditioner more often, and that's dry air. It's
Yeah,
removing the water from the air.
yeah. I'm not supposed to turn on the ceiling fans.
Right.
You can't do that. And the air conditioning is a problem, yeah. And
You,
I'm very fortunate that Betty, she's very um, understanding
sure.
of the cooling in the house because when it's a little too cold, it's worse.
I understand.
You know.
Michael, do you have a humidifier?
Oh yeah, yeah. We tried that,
Did it
but
work?
well, it didn't. It really didn't work. What it did was create mold.
Oh, then it's not good. No,
Yeah, I tried it a
that's
couple
sad.
of times. Yeah, so it's like being between the rock and a hard place. You know.
Sure, sure. And it's understandable, but at
How
least
was how was
yeah,
Susan doing?
she's doing okay. She got some news from her doctor. After we come back from her trip, we have to set up a time. She's going to get a second opinion because the cardiologist says she's going to need heart surgery.
Oh dear God.
So she's asymptomatic, and we might as well try to eke out the trip that we're scheduled to take, and to get her mind, try to get her mind off it. But I know she's very worried about it, and I'm
Well, she'll
concerned.
be okay. I mean,
Yeah.
she's
So,
gonna be. She'll be okay.
but we want to get a second opinion to find
Right.
out if there's another way to do this. And so
Right.
she's going to be in touch with her doctor, and we'll try to get things organized so at least she'll have an appointment to get a
Well,
second opinion before we
I'll
commit to this.
I'll uh, we'll Betty and I will be saying prayers on Friday night when we light our Shabbat candles. So,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
and we'll
Yeah,
say
it's on my
prayers.
mind, and I'm phasing back on a lot of my club activities. But this I want to keep because it gives me a lot of solace.
Yes. Well,
And
you do what you
yeah,
like to do, and I believe a person who is in retirement should do what they want to do, and
yeah,
nobody should influence. No one should influence that. But when people are in retirement, people should support each other's wishes and what they like to do. You know, as long as it doesn't involve hurting anybody else,
right.
you're free to do what you like to do, what your likes are as a human being, and you have particular likes, and and you should do it no matter what that is, and not let people influence you to tell you this or tell you that.
It's that's why when I talk to people and when I'm with people, I always say, well, there are other ways of looking at a situation, because there are. You can't tell somebody what to do. All you can do is open doors for them and let them choose. And that's all we can do. And sometimes people just need to hear themselves speak, and then they get a better idea as to suddenly it comes to them what they need to do. So yeah, that's what we're confronted with, and so uh, we'll we'll tone down some of the land tours so
What?
we can
Yeah.
control activity a little better.
What made, if I can ask you, what made you move to Green Valley, Arizona?
The people, everyone we met, we liked.
No, before you came here.
Oh, before we came here,
Yeah, what
we
made
we
you move
love the
here?
Southwest. We love the attitude of uh, of the people in the Southwest.
Well,
And
where were you born and where did you grow up?
okay, well, I was born in Georgia, grew up in New York, and then went to school in Washington, D.C. And then the military took me to Texas and uh, Delaware. Okay. And we lived for a while in Maryland and then came down to Texas for 30 years.
Wow, boy, that's
So and now and then here. But we
well,
really fell in love with the terrain, the people. Yes, we miss trees and like that, but we don't miss the snow
no.
because as you get older, you can't do everything in that weather. So it extends time in which you can do. And then we saw various uh, major cities in the Southwest because we wanted to be near a university. And our first, I had taught in Tucson years and years ago, and I looked on the time off I had, I looked at the area and I liked it. So when we looked at Phoenix, we didn't look at Reno, Nevada. We didn't consider California. In Texas, we could have been closer to one of the kids. It would have been convenient for travel, more convenient for travel. But everything that we would enjoy in living in Texas, it would not we would not have had the same opportunities to live a life that we wanted to live. And when we came, so we looked in Tucson, we looked in uh, uh, north of Tucson, we looked in this area, and we said, no, this is where we want to be. It's at the time, and when we made our decision. The day we made our decision, we were eating in one of the restaurants, and we asked the waitress, you know, is she from for the first? Are you from this area? Yes, I'm from actually Sarita, but I work in Green Valley. But she's going to the University of Arizona, and that's why she's continuing working where she is. And I asked her, what she likes and dislikes about the area. And of course, she loved the area. And everything she said, we had decided already on our own. And so she convinced us, basically, we were doing the right thing. And then we met, little by little, we met other people and just enjoyed it.
Well,
Nobody
when
here
I
has,
hi
they
Dopey.
put their ego aside.
Yeah, you know what I did what I over the years what I found out and discovered that the state of Arizona is not the healthiest place in which to live,
That's true. That's
you
true.
know.
At one time, the air was better, but you can still develop allergies. You can still run into other situations, and
Because
but
we have terrible dust storms here from time
it
to time.
depends where no matter where you live, there are climate issues, weather issues. Uh, you there's no one place
No,
that that's free
There
of
isn't
everything.
any, Marty, I understand there isn't any one place that's perfect.
That's right.
Every place has its issues.
And
However,
that's, yeah,
you you know there you one would weigh issues. Weigh them.
sure.
Where is it? Where are there less issues?
Right.
See, where are and there are places that have less issues, and so
And yeah, well, that's how I look at it.
yeah.
But for us, what we were looking for, it's here, and that's why we enjoy it so much. Hi,
California.
David.
I David.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
loud and clear.
It took me over almost half an hour to get in today, but here I am.
That's good. Well, I appreciate it. We haven't started yet,
I'll be
David.
right back.
Okay. There was just the two of us. Amy's computer is down. I got a text from another person. Their computer is down. And so we're it again. So we'll proceed. So I'll open up today and say
Should
everything
we
in
wait for
Hebrew.
Michael to come back before you do that?
Well, he told me he's going to have to go back and forth many times because of his eyes. So we'll get started. It's okay. Baruch
Okay.
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok v'divrei Torah. Amen.
Amen.
So we can wait a little bit for him. How are you doing, David?
I'm pretty fine. I was a little frustrated, but I figured it out. I had to take the new computer, and I was about to toss it across the yard when I realized it's not the computer's fault. So I took the internet and tossed it across the yard, and that fixed it.
Yeah, the things are happening, and Michael and I were talking about how we've become so dependent on the computer and no
Yeah.
longer interacting with people face to
Well,
face.
it's good to be here. I really did not want to
That's
miss
right.
today, especially after a wonderful dinner the other night.
Yes, that worked out well, and I'm glad. I'm glad you had fun with everything, and you gave me a bunch of ideas for the science club, and I appreciate those ideas
And if you
about.
ever want me to talk to your science club, lecture to them, or throw olives at have them throw olives at me, I'm happy. My schedule's pretty free these days, weeks, and months.
Okay, that would be fun. Uh, but we would want you to talk about more about the time you and the shoemakers were looking at the plates and what you saw, things like that. Uh,
I would
because
love that very much.
yeah, because that one I know that you have a lot of information to give,
Now
and
you'll
we
be
can
back
do it
from
as an
your
informal discussion too.
and you'll be back from your little trip by the middle of October, right?
Yes, yes.
Because
And
that's
I'll
the
have to, like I mentioned, I didn't want to make it a big deal of it when Susan was there, but when we get back, we're going to be getting a second opinion for possible heart surgery for her. And she was told by the cardiologist that she does have to have the heart surgery. And so we're gonna wait and get a second opinion and go from there, and then make a hard, make our decisions and do things. But little by little, I'll be cutting back from all the different clubs that uh, I'm involved, so I can spend more important time with her to be able to get things taken care of.
well. God bless you both, and
Well, thank you, thank you. Michael knows I mentioned that to Michael earlier, and these are things that happen in life, and you just need to roll with the punches. It's hard. It's
Yeah,
hard.
it is.
Yeah.
You don't know from one day to the next, but um, I believe with all my heart that Susan, after everything is said and done, she's going to be fine.
Thank
Because,
you.
yeah, and I want to echo the sentiments of David, and God bless both of you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mark.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
one of the things that, I have a different philosophy about life. It doesn't mean you have to give up. I found, I've been through cancer. I have terminal kidney disease. I have all kinds of issues to deal with, but I don't give up.
Yeah.
And that's just my personality. There's always something in the future to do, and look forward to doing those things. But this takes a little, like other people have experienced. It takes the wind out of our sails when somebody who's very close is not well, and so well,
Well,
we have to deal with it. I once spoke to a rabbi, and who is very influential, John Feldman, and he was a professor at the University of New Mexico. And of interest, he also was the leader of a Western swing band. And we used to get together at various events and things like that dealt with Western swing. So we had a lot of fun together. And but when my parents passed away, he gave me very sound advice. And just you have much time to help others, and that's what I try to do. That's what I try to do in a lot of my activities at the temple, at the through teaching and through helping others. Michael, you've been with me when we visited Helene. You remember that? Uh,
yes, yes, I do.
Little things, just little things like that.
Well, I remember
Yeah.
when you visited me.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Okay.
remember that too. And you've been a very see. I'm very glad that you're here. That you're here because you have turned out to be a wonderful friend to me.
Well, let
And
me
and just as
thank you.
important, you have uh, supported m- m- my music. That's really important to me. From the very beginning, you supported you've always came to a performance and you were always there, including the last one when David was there for my Stand with Israel fundraising concert.
Yeah.
And you were there when some others were not. I'll just leave it at that. And so
Well,
you've
thank you.
been very,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you,
But
Marty. And
it's one of those things that I feel it's just me and my personality, and I just want to help. And that's and that's what the rabbi had mentioned to me, and I took it to heart. And he said, "Go read Torah." And I had a previous rabbi that gave me this book that we use for study, that I use for study, Flout's uh, uh, version. And that was another rabbi. I guess they saw certain things that I didn't recognize in myself. Uh, but it's a good experience today. I'm not going to, we don't have to go into as much depth as I was going to be going into, but the when we see these words and everything, it's a rehash of certain things, and it's interesting that we're dealing with the heart of Judaism, and I can only speak for myself. It resonates with me. And what we're going to be reading today and possibly next week as well, we're going to see uh, the reasons why it becomes so important. Uh, are the prayers that we say during the weekly service, even the daily service, and people sometimes modify the services for expediency and like that because they have busy lives. But on a daily basis, but on the Sabbath, it's a day of rest, and we're going to be discussing some of that. And there are reasons why it's important, why God needed a day of rest. I mean, we think we have work, but the act of creating the entire earth, there's some very meaningful stories, poems, literature of many, whether they're in essay form or like famous writers, famous rabbis, uh, to show that that we're the only ones that can make the choices for ourselves.
You know, it would be very interesting if we had an atheist as part of the group.
Hmm.
And the reason that I say that is because I would be very interested to hear their point of view
Sure.
about God and
Hi,
religion.
Suzanne. Yeah. And it's
I
very
may be able
personal.
to find you an atheist, in fact.
Well,
I
There are
might be
they,
able to find
agnostics,
you.
there are atheists and everything, but it's just, but I can speak about the philosophy of Judaism, and it registers with me. Each to his own, and that's all I can say. So, David, did you bring something for us to
Yes, I
listen to
certainly
today?
did. Okay, today I'd like to share a little Tennyson with you.
Hi,
Oh,
Suzanne.
Hi,
hello,
David,
Suzanne.
Michael,
uh,
David.
oh, hello, Suzanne.
Go ahead, David.
Uh, Alfred Tennyson was an amateur astronomer. He had a telescope and he looked at the comet of 1858. He looked at the Great Comet of 1854. 1858 was Donati's comet. And he wrote about the Great Comet of 1861 flaring over the marketplace. He also dabbled in poetry, and that's what I'd like to quote right now from his most famous poem, In Memoriam. A time to sicken and to swoon, when science reaches forth her arms to feel from world to world and charms her secret from the latest moon. Contemplate all this work of time, the giant laboring in his youth, nor dream of human love and truth and dying nature's earth and line. But trust that those we call the dead are breathers of an ampler day for ever nobler ends. They say the solid earth whereon we tread in tracks of fluent heat began, and grew to seeming random forms, the seeming prey of cyclic storms, till at the last arose the man who throve and branded from clime to clime, the herald of a higher race, to shape and use. Arise and fly, the reeling fawn, the sensual beast. Move upward, working out the beast, and let the ape and tiger die. That friend of mine who lives in God, that God which ever lived and loved. One God, one law, one element, and one far off divine event to which the whole creation moves.
Very, very interesting. He understood. How long ago was that written, David?
It was published in 1850. Tennyson
Okay.
had a lot of trouble with his early stuff, but by the 1840s he was writing some of the most beautiful verse. But when he came out with In Memoriam, Queen Victoria immediately responded by appointing him Poet Laureate of England, which he kept for the rest of his life. So 1815.
You know, it's very interesting because one of the phrases that you used in one molecule, or he used one molecule, uh, in science, that's actually what the universe was created from.
Yeah,
That's right. Even so, he was seeing something that in his mind as he wrote, because everything starts with hydrogen.
yeah.
Maybe a little helium thrown in at the time, but the majority is by far is hydrogen.
I
And
remember,
everything
sorry,
else comes from that.
I remember when I was giving a lecture in Texas at a school, and I saw a boy who was sitting in the corner, and I kind of nodded at him, and I said, "Can I ask what you're doing here?" And he said, "I'm being punished, and my teacher wants me to learn the periodic table," which was sitting on top of him on the wall. And I looked at him and I said, "If you think about the universe, hydrogen, all you really have to know is hydrogen and a little helium. So go
Yeah.
back in there and say, I got it, hydrogen and helium, and don't worry about the rest of them."
But you got to
Yeah,
know it for your teacher. But no, it's true, but it's fascinating. It answers all of those things, but it all fits into what but other people have thought and way before, the discoveries took place. Very interesting.
I wish I had known Tennyson, but of course we were
Yeah.
totally different generations. But I do know his great great grandson, Jonathan Tennyson, and we're pretty good
Oh,
friends. I visited him in London once.
fascinating.
Yeah,
When you think about it, everybody knew about the molecule of, the different elements in the mid 1800s, but they didn't really know how it worked out. And so it's just a fascinating deal that here one person in his writing suddenly comes upon an epiphany like that. I think it's really it's sharp. There are many other authors that have done that too. Uh, so anyway, I don't know how far we'll get, and I'm happy you're here, Suzanne. You must be quelling you're surrounded by three guys.
Works for me.
Oh boy.
But I'm sorry if I offend, but I just couldn't help that. So anyway, we are on Deuteronomy um, 4. We're finishing it up. I thought it would be just to rehash it. There were a few things we didn't mention last week that maybe we need to talk about. Uh, so we are on Deuteronomy 4, verse 44. And so if we could just, if some, I don't care who it is. We've got three of you. I know you have some English translations in front of you. So uh, uh, whoever wants to do it, that's fine.
okay, why don't I go
I'll
next?
try
Oh,
it there.
let me let Michael and then David. I'll give you the next section since you both spoke up, and then Suzanne, I'll give you a third section to read, and then we'll go on. Yeah,
Okay.
okay,
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to go after this with my eyes inside. So
okay. Can you do
I'll
40?
take the first crack at this.
Okay, if you can get through verse 44 all the way to the end of 49.
Okay. This is the teaching that Moses set before the Israelites. These are the decrees, laws, rules Moses addressed to the people of Israel after they had left Egypt, beyond the Jordan and in the valley of Beth Peor, in the land of King Sihon and the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, whom Moses and the Israelites defeated after they had left Egypt. They had taken possession of the country and that of King Og of Bashan, the two kings of the Amorites, which were on the east side of the Jordan, from Aor on the banks of the Wadi Arnon, and as Mount Sion, that is Hermon. Also the whole Arabah on the east side of the Jordan, as far as the Sea of the Arab, uh, at the foot of the slopes of Pisgah.
Okay. That's a reiteration
Before we
of
get
what,
started on discussion of this, I would like
yes,
to add something to it. To
sure.
Michael's
Well, you
wonderful
can
reading.
say it now, David. That's okay.
Okay, the very first line that Michael read is the basis of one of the most beautiful hymns I've ever heard in Judaism, and I would like to sing it for you. And this is the law which Moses said. V'zod haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai v'yadon.
Yeah, Moshe.
And
And,
he just,
and
they
actually,
hold the
this is,
Torah up as they do that. It's
yes,
beautiful.
and that's what I was going to mention. David, you started something that's very important. I want you to, when we read through things, think of some of the prayers that we say on a regular basis. Okay? And thank you, David, for picking that up on your own. That I think is very important. And it's very good. Also, in verse 45, he separates out, it separated out exhortations, laws, and rules. And this basically is a very important concept as we read through these. These are rules of behavior, rules of certain activities, laws of certain activities, and what certain people have to do, and exhortations, sort of saying, "This is what I would enjoy seeing you do." Yeah, and I think that you put all that together, and yes, we've tried to address all three of those as we've gone through, uh, you know, depending on what we've read, we've tried to cover these things. Uh, so I think that's important. No matter how you look at these, what's written, you're going to have an interesting experience. That's how I look at it. The other thing is that uh, certain people, certain events, certain wars, certain cities, certain lands um, uh, are mentioned over and over again. And the reason for that, I would assume in Torah, is to say that to remind us of how important they were. That if things had gone the other way, and the Israelites were defeated in all these things, uh, it 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 wouldn't have been as good an ending. But it did show one thing: perseverance, and another is the emphasis on remembering. Remember your history. Remember who you, so that you know who you are.
Yeah, and what's repeated very often is when God reminds us that He led us out of the land of Egypt, that that comes up a lot, and that should not be taken lightly.
And this dovetails into what the rabbi told me, Michael, when I ran into these situations before. And that is uh, the last phrase, okay, in verse 40, it will when we read verse 1, it is said this, it repeats part of what we said. So any further discussion on verses 44 through the end of 49? So Suzanne, since David had oh, Michael, you're next. So why don't you do this and read verses 1 uh, through the end of 10. Oh, you
Okay.
just read, Michael.
Yeah,
You just
I can
okay,
write.
Suzanne. If you would do it, I give your eyes a rest, Michael. I forgot. It's my
No,
fault.
that's okay. That's all
Okay,
right.
go ahead, Suzanne. Why don't you do verses 1 through 10?
And Moses called all Israel and said unto them, Hear, O Israel, the statutes and judgments which I speak in your ears this day, that ye may learn them and keep and do them. The Lord our God made a covenant with us in Horeb. The Lord made not this covenant with our fathers, but with us, even us who are all of us here alive this day. The Lord talked with you face to face in the mount out of the midst of fire. I stood between the Lord and you at that time to show you the word of the Lord. For you were afraid by reason of the fire and went not up into the mount, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters beneath the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself unto them or serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto the thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments.
Okay, thank you. I know in Plout there are different words, and actually, when you read different sources, they may use slightly different words. And I want to go back just to mention some of that. Uh, but the message is the same. The message is the same. But uh, do, does verse 1 remind you of everything? Anything? I know that's what the rabbi told me. That he said, remember, he said, read the Torah, read things, and then study them and observe them faithfully. Basically, live what you read. Just don't talk about it, do it.
Oh, okay.
So, so that's what I took to heart. Those what he mentioned to me, when I see it again and again, uh, it strikes, it encourages me to keep moving forward, keep moving forward. In Judaism, we when we say the prayer for the deceased, it's only a prayer in praise of God. It is not a prayer for the deceased. You have the Kaddish prayer.
It's actually an optimistic prayer,
Yes, yes.
and I
You,
say it
you,
every day.
and this is one of the things that is an important consideration. That you still have a life to live, and to live it as well as you can. So it's a very it struck me, here we're reading it again here, and I just find it very, for me it was very important in my life. Any other comments about what Suzanne read?
Um, as far as I know, um, prayers are made not made to the dead, but to God. And I what I talking to some Orthodox rabbi, um, there's some controversy about going to the cemetery uh,
Hmm.
several days before Rosh Hashanah because some rabbis are worried that people will go to their loved ones' grave and make prayers to them instead of making prayers to God, and and so there's a bit of an issue there. But
Yeah.
as far as I know, it's made all prayers are made directly to God and not to uh, the people who are deceased.
So, here, it also speaks to the future in verse 3. It was not, it is addressing the covenant that God made with the people. It was not with our fathers that the Lord made this covenant, but with us, the living, every one of us who is here today. And in some people have interpreted this to mean that in every generation, we've all been there to witness this event at Mount Sinai. And it's a comforting, that also is a comforting uh, phrase. It allows you to think in terms of togetherness, that other people are with you all the time. So I can see this, and I'm sure there are other ways of looking at this, but I find it very consoling
Me
for
too.
me personally. For me personally, and that was part of, again, what the rabbi had suggested, and I took it to heart. So I just wanted to say, so now you guys understand me a little more, I guess. Uh, but any comments about Moses? He was the only one who, he now says, face to face, the Lord spoke to you on the mountain. Okay, it was a pillar of fire or a pillar of smoke. Okay, didn't see a literal face. Okay. Any other comments about that? Any other comments about uh, uh, Moses acting as an intermediary? He's just reminding them, remember, remember. And verse 6, it'll sound a little familiar to you. Uh, uh, Michael, or Suzanne, can you read verse 6 again?
Sure. I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage.
Okay. Does that familiar, is that familiar to you in any way?
Um, well, God has referred to this particular event more than once, like Michael pointed out. But I also think that that it applies to not only uh, the Jewish people, but to everyone, because we're all in bondage to sin. And so God was uh, remind or Moses, I guess, was reminding them for God that God brought them out of bondage to sin, and if He can do that, He can for them. He can do it for everybody.
One thing that's very
Yeah, go ahead,
important,
David.
one thing that is extremely important about what we're about to encounter is the repetition of the Ten Commandments, which I would
Yes.
very much like to read when it comes time to do the next little section from six.
Yes, we will get to that, and you'll be able to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I just wanted to say that the fact that they're repeated here testifies to their importance. The
Correct.
centerpiece,
Very correct.
the centerpiece not just of Judaism, but of Christianity and of almost all the major religions in the world, because these commandments suggest good things, things not to do. It doesn't want you to go out and kill people. It doesn't want you to go and steal. It doesn't want you to covet. And all these things are worthwhile things to give us happier lives.
Right.
Mm.
And we're going to be reading that shortly. You are very correct, David. Um, when we start the Amidah, and we read the Shema, and you're going to hear this, and then we go into the V'ahavta prayer. This is the prelude to all the rest of the passages in praise of God. But all this is said in the services. We talk about this. The uh, it talks about God, what we're supposed to do, as you mentioned, David. Not to we're supposed to uh, pray to, of, with, in, whatever preposition you want to use. We that it's God with a capital G, not the idols. Okay, and that is also commented here. Don't make any idols
Well,
in verse 8.
that and it mentioned that what we're supposed to do, and this also includes what we're not supposed to do.
Right, right. And one of the things, if you think about what the Israelites were just through, they some of them didn't do things the way they were told, and were punished for it. But here he's reminding Moses is reminding everyone again. Okay, don't do it. Okay, and otherwise bad things will happen. We don't have to go into all the details here, but those who continue to put God in the forefront, and that uh, you will do well. Let's put it that way. That's all you can do. You can say about that, I think, but it became very, very important. When we think in terms of it, um, we have the Ark, and we have the Torah, and we have menorahs and like that. We don't pray to them. They assist us in our praying to God. So that question was raised way, way back. I don't know who raised it. but just to reiterate this factor. But that is basically uh, that is basically it. Any other comments about what Suzanne read? Again, look at this and see as we read and think of maybe a prayer that it reminds you of a prayer, because the one of the books that we had, and somehow I don't have it anymore, it's just vanished. The older books that we used to use at the temple, at the bottoms of every page, they were footnoted, and they would tell you where the verses came from in the Torah,
Hmm.
which I think is would be nice to have again, so people would understand what's going on, with the prayer.
One thing I wanted to add to that, and I wanted to thank you for correcting a mispronounced word that I had when I sang that. But when they do Vazot HaTorah, the congregation rises, the
Yes,
cantor takes the Torah, or the reader takes the Torah and holds it up
yes,
as
that's what you read.
opens it up
That's
so
right.
that everyone can see it. I think
That's
it's
right.
such one of the most beautiful part of Sabbath service.
And by the way, in every temple and every synagogue today, they do go through the same ritual, say the same words. Okay, it doesn't matter what group you belong to, it's stated, and
Yeah.
I think that that's an important consideration.
Hmm.
It still is a unifying part of the service.
I think so too. Thanks, Marty.
The if you will, the portions that occur beforehand and the portions that come after the Amida are not ritually there. You can have different ways of doing it, but the Amida, that's it. There's only one way, and then you can break it down later on.
The other thing about it is that the Amida has two names, really. The
Hmm.
Amida, which means you're supposed to stand when you do it,
Right.
and the Shemona Esrei, which is the number of blessings, which is 18.
Yes.
And it's interesting that they use those two names for this major part of the service.
Yeah. I just find it fascinating, but anyway, uh, I- you know, did you have any other comments, Michael or Suzanne?
Uh, well, concerning the Ten Commandments, uh, and we're going to read them, I guess.
Well, we are little as we go through all of this, you'll understand certain things. Oh, yeah, this is part of the Ten Commandments. We've been through
Yeah.
1 through 3
So,
now.
and with the Ten Commandments, because I've thought about this, and it seems to me, because they're all numbered, you have the first commandment and the second and the third and the fourth. And it occurred to me that as we read those, uh, one may believe that one may be less important than another in some people's minds. But I believe that they all have their importance, and it's all on one level, and
Hmm.
and that God did not intend for one to be more important than the other.
Mhm.
It was meant to be all equally important, regardless of what you may think in your own mind. And that's something that I thought about.
No, I think it's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
They're all very important, and that's why those first 10 commandments are sort of considered universal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Suzanne.
And to build on what Michael is saying, it's my personal belief that I I think that God sees all sin equal. So we might consider like oh, I don't know, stealing a candy bar out of a drugstore is minor compared to killing somebody. But I think in his way of thinking, a sin is a sin, and it doesn't matter if it's big or small. I think with God, it all carries the same weight, and which builds on what Michael is saying. Uh, because I think also I think God was trying to stress the importance of the, how do I want to say, the equality of the Ten Commandments, that other than the first one, to love the Lord your God, um, I, I think the, other nine are the same, bear the same, weight or, yeah. I'm searching for a word that I don't know what word I mean, but they're all equal.
Yeah.
The
Yes, they're all important.
the commandment stealing has
Well,
been
we're going to get there, Mike. Just hold
okay.
your thought for a second. Okay.
Sure.
Because so we've gone through all of this, including the Sabbath. So why do you think before we move on, why do you think the Sabbath is so important here? Why it's reiterated again and again and again. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, it's explained that way. God actually explains it that you're going to work for 6 days and you do everything you need to do, but on the seventh day today, you don't. It's a Sabbath. You're supposed to take a rest and take things easy, have Torah study, and do different things. But I'd like to sort of make a suggestion that much as I appreciate what Susanna said and what Michael has said, I kind of respectfully disagree with the idea that all of the commandments are equal. Um, I personally have a bit of a problem sometimes with the third one about taking the name of God in vain. I worked very hard on that. But I don't know if God were to come and say, I'm going to punish you for taking my name in vain, it would be the same. I doubt it would be the same punishment that he would give me if I went out and killed people or stole things, especially killing people. And so it's just my gentle thought.
I don't believe they're equal. I personally don't believe that they're equal, but that's not what God intended. What God intended that they should be, I should have used they should be observed equally.
Oh, yeah, of
Not,
course.
yeah,
Okay.
not that they're equal.
Yeah. I
They're
said
not
they were
equal,
equal.
but
Yeah.
that's not what God wants
Right.
us to believe. See, do not think that one is more important than the other in thought, even though they're not. That's why I said what I said, because thou shalt not murder is certainly more important than the some of the others. But that's not the purpose. That's not the the numbering of them is what I had what I was thinking about. God does not want you to think that way. God wants us to observe all of them equally, not that they're
They're of
Equal,
equal importance.
Yeah,
They're all of equal importance.
yeah,
yes.
I said equal in importance, but
Yeah.
I see what Michael and David is saying.
Yeah. So, it's okay. Each one is saying something similar, but yes, I think it's very important. Uh, Punishments do not necessarily, with some of these, you have recourse. You can change your ways. And in some cases, depends on what you've done, that the punishment may be more than others. Some are very swift punishments. For example, like uh, Aaron's sons come to mind. It's a flash in the pan and kaput. That's it. So it's so it because they were violating five of the Ten Commandments. I guess that's why. Because because here we have also uh, if we read on, I'm going to ask for let's see. Uh, who hasn't read? David, I think you're up. So if you would kindly read, it's a little long. If you would start with verse 16 and go through the end of 24.
Marty, I
Yeah.
finished at 10.
You
So
finished.
I finished at 10. So
Oh, I jumped ahead.
yeah,
I
started at
apologize.
11. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start at verse 11. Start at verse
Actually,
11 and
with your
then go
permission.
through 18, the end of 18.
Okay, and with your
Thank
permission,
you
I
for
would like
reminding me, Suzanne.
thank you, Suzanne, but I would like to start back at 6, if I may.
Back
I
at what?
am
Oh, 6.
back up to 6. I am the Lord thy God, who brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, even any manner of likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down unto them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, and upon the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto the thousandth generation of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Observe the Sabbath day to keep it holy, as the Lord thy God commanded thee. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath unto the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any manner of work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thine ox, nor thine ass, nor any of thy cattle, nor any thy stranger that is within thy gates, that thy manservant and thy maidservant may rest as well as thou. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a servant in the land of Egypt, and the Lord thy God brought thee out of thence by a mighty hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord thy God commanded thee to keep the Sabbath day. Honor thy father and thy mother, as the Lord thy God commanded thee. For thy days may be long, and that it may go well with thee upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not murder, Neither shalt thou commit adultery. Neither shalt thou steal. Neither shalt thou bear false witness against thy neighbor. Neither shalt thou covet thy neighbor's wife. Neither shalt thou desire thy neighbor's house, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, his ass, or anything that is thy neighbor's.
Okay. Any comments?
Yeah,
Yes, go
actually,
ahead.
I have a question for David. Um, what is your interpretation of not taking the name of the Lord in vain?
Well, it comes, and something that Wendy pointed it out, and I certainly knew it, that everyone in my family has a temper, and I have a good one. And it comes very, very fast, and it's never anything serious. When I had a car accident a few months ago, I was calm and I handled it professionally. But if my computer doesn't work right, or if I can't find the photograph I'm looking for, or something like that, I'll have a minor little tantrum. And it's then when that happens that my tendency is to take God's name in vain, and
Do you mean
usually with an expletive after it.
do
And
you mean
I,
swearing? Do you mean swearing?
yeah, and I am working very hard not to do that. And over the last few weeks, I've met with quite a bit of success. And there's words that I'm allowed myself to say that I say, and there's words that I do not allow myself to say. And I've been following that over most of the summer so far pretty successfully. I don't lose my temper when I'm with a group. I never lose it over anything serious. But when it comes to little things is what I have to watch for. And that's kind of my interpretation.
Well,
Sure.
um,
Go ahead, Suzanne.
yeah, uh, the way I've been taught to be is that taking the Lord's name in vain by swearing, or rather swearing, uh, is not taking the Lord's name in vain.
Well, maybe it isn't. So I
What?
can go ahead and do it again. Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
you can. That's what I'm trying to say. What I've been taught is, um, I guess I'll use an example. Um, Elijah was told by God uh, to build the 3 altars and soak them down and get them all wet. Oh, and to put the bulls or calves or whatever they were sacrificing on them and get everything soaked down. It was in a competition between Baal and God, and so and then God told Elijah to call upon his name for the fire from heaven to come down and set everything on fire. I forget which book that was in, Kings maybe, or I don't think it was Samuel, but whatever one it was. Um, so Elijah did that. Now, if Elijah had gotten into, I can't think of another word. Um, I got it into a name calling contest with these Baal worshipers and called down or used God's name to call the fire down to light up the altars without God's permission, then that it would be taking God's name in vain because you were because that person would be trying to act like God or try to invoke God on their command, not on God's command. So that would be taking his name in vain, not swearing.
Oh, well, thank you, Suzanne. You've made my day.
Well, I'm here to help.
That's why. That's why it do not swear falsely by God's name. And that is a more legalistic term. You can't say, well, God made me do it.
No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, of
Okay.
course. Um,
And you have to assume personal responsibility. And that's okay. All of these things are fine. But all these different interpretations. I'm going to read what Rabbi Plout said. Uh, the commandment may originally have referred to a custom of swearing by the life of God, and that therefore such an oath demanded extreme caution. However, the meaning of the Hebrew is in doubt. It may not at all relate to swearing falsely, but to taking God's name in vain or to abusing it, forbidding magical, profane, or even casual use of the divine name. Uh, Proponents of the latter interpretation point out that the ninth commandment, which deals with false witness, implies the prohibition of swearing falsely. The second commandment deals with the misuse of image. That's why these are sort of grouped together here. That you don't use the image of representation, because that you may be totally wrong about the image, and that also implies idols for the same reason, and so it says this. The divine name is part of the divine essence. Hence, care must be taken lest one diminish the sanctity of God by misusing his name. Those of you who hear words like Hashem and like that, it's so that anything that's said, you don't want to accidentally use the name of God in your, even Adonai is not exactly the name of God. Okay. And that goes back to in Exodus, where Moses asks, by what name shall I call you? And God reveals his name. But so a lot of history develops where you see that you use other words in place of the sacred name of God.
yeah.
So that you don't accidentally make a mistake and you know and violate one of
Yeah.
this commandment. Yes, Michael.
What about that saying? This was an act of God. Uh, for example, if lightning strikes a person, one would say, "Well, that was an act of God." Uh, what about something like that?
I don't know what a rabbi would say. So
Rather
what
than
be,
rather than
because
yeah, rather than saying, "Well, that was an act of nature."
I believe that
See,
was a legalistic thing. In fact, I think it's
yes,
a
that
Yeah.
mystery.
comes later, but yes, that was they didn't have at the time these phrases enter into the language, they didn't have a scientific reason for it. Today we know what happens and everything. You could say, oh, every flood is an act of God, which insurance companies do say that. but it's not really. It's as was pointed out, it's really an act of nature.
Well, then
And
you have to look, insurance companies, but yet then you have to take a look, is that a Jewish insurance company or not?
only you, Michael, only you. Oh, golly. But it, it, there's more to this also. We spoke about the Sabbath and everything, and we know that God has rested uh, on which day?
On Saturday,
Saturday, right?
on
The
Shabbat,
Sabbath. The Sabbath, and
on
and
Shabbat.
we celebrated in uh, who knows why, when we
Well,
think about it.
something that's
Uh,
very interesting to me when you use the word celebrate. And so, but nobody uses the word observed. They don't use observed. It's always celebrated. And I
yes,
believe it could be one or the other or both. But it's always why people say, well, it's celebrated. Well,
uh,
part of it is celebrated and part of it is observed.
sure, but it to me it's a joyous occasion, not a solemn occasion.
Yeah, when I
It has
hear,
both, but you are correct. It has both in the service. Yes.
you know, observe to me seems more solemn to me.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that's correct, but it,
it's what the word connotes to some people.
yeah,
But some people, the Hasid, they dance on the Sabbath.
So do they that? Yeah, they dance, but are there any musical instruments played while they
No,
dance? So
no,
why is that?
because of work.
So then it's observed.
Yes,
It's observed by God's word.
right.
See?
So, but I'm saying that, yeah, to me, I just think in my own mind, it's just the way I think God really wants us to be happy rather than sad all the time.
yeah,
I think
Because of
it's
all
all.
the prayers, everything that we do is when you look at all and you look around, if when you drive down the highway and I shouldn't use the word highway. When you drive along a road and you see the scenery and you see it's just beautiful. You look up at the sky and it's just beautiful. I mean, there's so many aspects to creation, that you have to say, well, yeah, I like to look at from that standpoint.
It's also about honoring God's wishes.
Yes. But that's why I say I really think that that God means for us to be happy with everything.
See that
No
that's
matter
one of
what.
the when we started this morning's class. I said I I wish there was an atheist in this class because of what we're talking about now. When you just look up at the sky and look at all this creation and that, I would like to hear from an atheist their point of view about what we're talking about.
Well,
That's
they
the
go into the
interest.
science. They will use science to justify
I
things.
don't know what they'll say. That's what you're saying. Who knows
No,
what they would say?
but I've heard other people, and they
Oh yeah,
seem to default to the scientific side of things.
right.
well,
And I
And
will try to provide an atheist.
well, my
Again,
husband
okay.
is, my husband is, and if you were to ask him about the sun and the stars and all that,
yeah,
he would tell you that he doesn't have an opinion and that he's a,
Missed that.
a dust kind of guy, that he has no explanation for how the universe was
yeah,
created. And he doesn't he thinks once you're dead. And that's it.
Yeah, see, those are okay. It's yeah, but their behavior. What I find interesting that they paraphrase the Ten Commandments as part of their consideration of ethics of conduct. They just don't mention the name of God.
Yeah,
So
I think that's true.
that's all. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, my husband would say not to steal or
yeah.
murder people or commit adultery. Yeah, he would say that.
That's right. So I look at it. I can only speak for myself, and I can, each of us can only speak for themselves, and what your personal interpretations are. But again, why is it important to honor your father and mother? Is it just that you may live a long life and fare well? In other words, that you're going to lead a good life?
Well, why should you?
Yeah.
Well, they gave you life,
Yes,
and then they continued to nurture your life.
that's right.
You see, and it's something that they worked at it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a
Best,
it
and it's
was
the
a
best they could. Yeah, we have to add that in because sometimes parents get angry, say things that they didn't really mean. Okay. Just like we saw in Torah with certain people, say something out of casual, discussion, and they mention something, and it can come true. So you don't want to say certain things.
and
But
the teaching.
but parents are human. We may put them on a pedestal, but they're human, and just like any other human, we all have our faults.
This is one commandment that I never have had any problems with because I had a very close and deep relationship with both my parents,
Yes.
especially when my dad got older and he started to get Alzheimer's disease. And I spent hours and days with him, working with him, talking with him. And then afterwards, my relationship with my mom got
Sure.
very close. And she took it upon herself as part of her parental responsibilities to introduce me to Wendy. And I held off on that for about 7 years until she said, David, forget I ever said that. Forget that I ever tried to do something to make my son a little happier. And I took that as a challenge. Immediately, I wrote to her. We got together. And then when I told my mom that we were going to be married, I mean, she said, excuse me while I stand on the table and dance.
No, it's one of those things that uh, it, it it it's important, especially in their teaching. Uh, sometimes we call it behavior, but their teaching in terms of Torah is the Israelite way of living. Okay, that at that time, but we can say use the same in today. We can say that's what our parents are teaching. How do we get through the day?
There are also examples of other father son and father daughter, mother daughter relationships.
Oh yes,
Specifically, Luis Alvarez and his son Walter, that discovered the idea that the dinosaurs were extinguished because of the fall of an asteroid onto the Earth. A major, major discovery that they made
sure.
together.
Mm-hmm. But it just there are many variations on the theme. Uh, uh, what do you do if parents are cruel parents? There's some parents they'll beat the kids. Uh, some of them will sell the children. I mean, there's so many things that go on. So, what does it mean to honor? We don't need it to answer it, but it's something to think about. Yes, go
But
ahead, Dave.
I think it means to work with a parent if a parent is cruel. My dad, for example, always at the end of his life considered himself a failure as a father. And I worked with him on that. We talked at great length on that issue again and again. And I like to think that I was helpful to him in that regard.
Sure, sure. So that's what, this opens up a lot of discussions. But it's there for us, I think, to really think about and how you can improve things.
See, in my case, with my parents, um, when I thought about this when I left New York after high school, I was 18, and I wanted to get further my profession of music in Hollywood.
Hmm.
And before I left, we had a number of discussions, my father and my mother and my two brothers, and we were always very, very close. As a matter of fact, when I thought about this much later on in life, I realized that I was in partnership with my parents. It wasn't a just they taught me and I listened. It was
Right.
a partnership of discussion, and I love them so much, and I miss them every day of my life. I turn, and there's always something there in my life that reminds me of my parents after all this time. And in a way, when I left them, I became closer. I actually became closer to them because I called them all the time, asked them how they were doing. They would reciprocate and ask me, Marty, you know.
Hmm.
And it was uh, it was just a wonderful, you know, it was a wonderful experience with my parents growing up because they
Good.
taught me so much, and they were uh, 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 or, they were not reformed. They were orthodox. They
Okay.
I came from an orthodox family, and I
All
could,
right.
and one thing, especially around the Seder table at the Chabad in Glendale, California, we'd sit around and talk about our the childhood, what we remember, and everybody would talk about growing up with their family. It's very common.
Sure. Very good. Very good.
Thank you, thank you.
So now I'm going to ask a question. We've had discussions about you shall not murder. We've had discussions about you shouldn't commit adultery. We've had discussions about you shall not steal. And we've also had the discussions before you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Okay. Why are these all in one verse? Why are they being lumped together? Can you come up with any ideas?
I have an idea.
Okay.
I think that God is trying to instill in us a natural sense of right and wrong. All these things about coveting at the end are
We
wrong
haven't
for.
gotten to covet yet. We
All
haven't
right,
gotten to covet.
okay, let's not covet, but we are. I think this is traditional on all of the commandments, each one in a different sense. That God is trying to instill in us a sense of what's right and what is wrong. It is wrong to kill. That's a natural thing under almost any circumstances. Certainly wrong to murder, and it is wrong to steal. If we're having dinner together and the waitress brings your dinner and I grab it and eat it, that's wrong. And I know it is, and it should be wrong. And I think that's what God is trying to instill in us. And I think that's why He puts a lot of stuff in a single thing to give us that sense, that moral code, that sense.
Okay. Suzanne, do you have any idea?
Well, okay, so we're saying that not to murder, commit adultery, steal, or or bear false witness, that they're kind of lumped together. And in a sense, they're all referring to some kind of destruction of a person. I mean, obviously, murder would be the ultimate, but committing adultery, I mean, that's a very painful thing. Uh, and stealing, um, what could that be? Taking one's life savings, taking a car,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and false witness. I mean, somebody could get uh, found guilty of murder for if
Yes.
someone lies. So to me, they all involve destruction of a person in one form or another.
And yes, I think that's very important. And I'm going to ask you to go one step further. What do you mean by one form or another?
Oh, well, uh, one form would be death,
Right.
and then the others could be almost death.
Yeah, you're right. It is a discussion about death, and but if we can put it into other words. You are you can murder in all of these different ways from body to soul of an individual.
Yeah, yeah,
You're taking it away from it is somebody that you're taking the life away from another person in different ways. And so I would if they said it this way, it just but there had to be a reason to put it all together, and I think Suzanne hits it on the head. When you do any of these, you are actually killing a person physically all the way to the soul. And each level is mentioned. And I think that it's a uh, it, it it just stands out that way. That's all I can say. So I think that we can discuss each one we have, but when you put them all together, you get a little more meaning about all of these different acts. You're going to harm someone.
Yeah, I agree with what Suzanne said,
Yeah.
but what I want to do is just uh, uh, connect a couple things here, and that is, thou shalt not murder, and thou shalt not steal. And
Hmm.
what I want to say about that is, if you by by committing murder, you have stolen someone's life.
Yes.
See, you have stolen a life. So steal is pretty deep. It's
Yeah.
really not stealing something out of a supermarket uh, uh, It's really not meant for that. However, you shouldn't do it unless there's there are certain circumstances. But you could steal somebody's reputation. You could steal. Uh,
Well, Michael, I would disagree with even from a supermarket. Uh, it it depends on the motives of the person. But if it's just the idea of attaining something for yourself because it glitters, a watch or something, or even a pencil that has glitter on it or something, the value of it doesn't matter. You're taking it from the owner of the store. You're affecting that owner financially.
that's not what I meant.
I know, I know.
That's
That's why I'm saying it.
that's not what I was talking about.
I
When I said
know.
from a supermarket, what I was thinking of, if somebody is in dire need of a morsel of food,
Yes.
if somebody is in dire, I could see somebody taking an apple off a cart if somebody is in dire need of a morsel of food. This is what I'm
Sure.
talking about,
Oh, from that standpoint, in order to survive or the family to survive, uh, uh, Les Miserables comes to mind. And sometimes that has to be taken into account. Uh, but that's why we had a Beit Din to take all of this into account. And I don't think somebody who needed it to survive would I don't think they would have had a death penalty.
Yeah, it's something like a
That's
white
right.
lie, a little white lie that's not meant to hurt anybody.
Sure.
And it's something also to the effect uh, 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 lying. I don't know if you're not supposed to lie. I don't know if that's a commandment or not.
Well, it dovetails into all of this.
So so here is an example of lying, if I can offer that. Uh, yes,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. If a if a man is beating his wife severely and she manages to escape to a neighbor's house, and the neighbor will hide her in the house, and the husband, who's knocking on the door, wants to know if his wife is there, and he says the neighbor says no, she's not here. That's a lie. However, she is being protected from further beating, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe worse. So um, and I'm offering that as an example about the taking of an apple to preserve your life,
Sure.
or
Sure.
something to that
From
effect.
that standpoint, yes, you are correct. As a matter of fact, you're not even lying when you say she's not here, because what's your definition of here? Your definition could be right where you're standing right now. And that's it. So you're not lying. You're saying a truth.
Well,
Even though she's hiding in a closet,
yeah,
she's there. She's not
well,
here.
yeah, yeah. Technically, you're right, but and to be uh, reasonable about it, you know, what
Well,
you're
this has
pointing
been,
out is
yeah.
you're acting as an attorney
No, but
because you're right.
no, I'm referring to Kant and other philosophers that have addressed this issue. It's the same. This comes up for discussion every so often. And Kant, the philosopher, and so you start to say, well, yeah, you're not really lying then.
Right.
So that's
Yeah,
okay.
Well,
Now,
that's
yeah, go ahead, Suzanne.
yeah, look at Rahab. Uh, she protected those two guys uh, when they were when they were hiding, the two guys that Joshua sent into Jericho,
Mm-hmm.
and she was hiding them in her apartment, I guess you'd call it. And so when the Jericho soldiers or police came knocking on her door, she said they weren't there. And
This
and
is the same type of situation. That's right.
so she wasn't bearing false witness against a person. She was just providing fake news
Oh, that's cute. That's cute.
to the soldiers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and she was later mentioned well in the New Testament
Yeah. She's on there.
and
Yeah.
receiving some kind of accolades. And
Yes.
so that wouldn't have, I think Jesus gave her accolades. I think he was the one. So apparently God doesn't have a problem with deception to save a life.
So it's the motivation behind it.
Yes.
It's like, dear, what kind, do you think I should wear the red dress or the blue dress? Which
Don't
makes,
ever answer that question.
that's right. You
Say
don't even
yellow.
say, well, what do you think is best? It's better. Well, both, you would look great in both.
There you go.
And it goes right back. They have to make their own decision.
Yes.
Know what I mean? So there are ways of wording things that and there are lots of examples you can come up with. Comedians have come up with lots of situations like that. But it's good. So I just wanted to finish with the coveting. Thou shalt not covet. And it basically, you should not covet anything. Anything that you can come up with, you shouldn't like that. You shouldn't covet. So why is that very, very important?
I think because it can lead you to do the things above that we just got done
Right.
talking about.
Yeah.
It's one thing, say your neighbor gets a new car and and uh and you go over to see it and you really like it and admire it and decide you want one. And that's fine. And so you save your money and go and buy one. I don't consider that coveting. But if you like it and you don't want to buy it and you steal it, then there's a problem.
But Suzanne, you can also covet something that is beyond your means. And then you would be harming yourself and whoever lives with you.
Oh, that's true too.
So we have to be careful. Uh, David, what do you think? And then Michael.
I think I'm just agreeing with Suzanne on this. It's all right to. Well, I invested in an optical device while I was at the retreat this summer. It's a beautiful, very expensive electronic monocular, and then I press a button, and it has a power of one, but it shows so much more than I can see without it. And right away, my closest friend there said, if it doesn't work for you, I will buy it from you. And is he coveting it? No, I don't think he is.
No,
But he's just sharing my joy in having it.
but the whole concept, the entire concept is, he has a bigger house. I want, I want to have a house just like that. By the way, Fiddler on the Roof uh, addresses this. Don't you remember Tevia's prayer in a way? To have a house with two staircases inside, one for going up, one for coming down, you know, and he would love to have all these things, you know, and he says, why am I, you know, why do I have to live this way? I'm so poor. I have this, I don't have this. You know, at the end, all of these questions are answered.
And finally, he says, I want a seat by the eastern wall.
Yes,
And it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'm so
but
glad you brought up Fiddler because I'll never forget watching it live, the play, with my
yes,
mom and my grandmother.
I was going to say the show I think is still better than the movies.
Yeah.
It leaves more to the imagination. And so you fill in any missing piece on the stage and everything. Was it what is it? Our Town is that Thornton Wilder? Our Town, and it's
Oh,
just a ladder on the stage.
yeah.
That's it. I mean, nothing else. Everything else is left up to your imagination. And so we don't need all of that. Sometimes you can just close your eyes and listen to what's being said or the music being played. You don't have to see any glitter or who's doing what or anything. Just just take it all in, and it gives you a good feeling. But you don't necessarily. But coveting, it can lead, yes, it can lead to bad things that you do, but it can also, uh, it's similar to gossip. It's very similar to gossip because you do it, then the next person does it a little better, then the first person and the second person and the third person wants to do each upping the ante, and they all start doing things, as was pointed out, that were never intended in the first place, but it starts the ball rolling, a bad way of behaving.
Mm.
So I think that is uh, like anything else. Now, if let's say you like the ox that your neighbor has, but you have the money to purchase it, okay? And it do you or you buy a dog from someone. Do you ever think about, well, maybe that person will miss the dog or miss the ox, and maybe just say, whenever you want to come by, you'll see how I'm treating him. And then you understand what I'm getting after. And it removes that aspect of it. You're able to have a more pleasant outcome. The person you bought it from wouldn't say, "Oh, he got it cheap," and all this. But you remove the barrier that can easily be set up by all these things. Who knows? Any other ideas?
Did you forget about me, Marty?
Nope, I haven't. You're next.
Thank you. I I would say this. I really never had a desire for anything that I could not afford in my own life. And I
That's
think
good.
a lot of that has to do uh, with my parents and especially music when I got to California, because I found an enormous amount of satisfaction in music, what I was doing with music.
Sure.
That that was a, a very stabilizing factor in my life because of the satisfaction that I got being able to play music.
But you
And
don't, but Michael, you don't, that satisfaction does not mean that you envy Yitzhak Perlman.
say that again.
that satisfaction that you get does not include your envying Yitzhak Perlman and wanting to be as good a violinist as he is.
No, no, I was satisfied with what God allowed me to do.
Yeah.
See,
Right.
and I wish that, and so that was a stabilizing factor in my life. That, and I didn't need to have uh, everything that I saw. I just didn't have that one. I did have very nice things in my life. I I've had things in my life that most people did not. For example, in the Marina del Rey, had a small yacht and another boat, which I wanted for Betty as well. And so I was satisfied. I was completely satisfied with my life, not looking over there and looking here and seeing this in a store. And I looked at it. I might have admired it for a few things, but I did not go to a point where I said, you know, I wish I had that. I never said that.
Yeah, those are good things to think about all the time.
Well, yeah.
So you did everybody really uh, what you've said about coveting and like that, very important, and how it can lead to other situations. Uh, so you want to, that's the main reason it's there. It's like a, you know, don't get your hopes up so high. Could even be thought about. You
It'll
know,
bring you down. You
that
get your
that's
hopes
right.
up like that, that'll bring you down.
That's right. And so that's I think that's one of the reasons that this is to be discussed. Uh, one of the things, and again, it's just me. I don't think that these words were here just to say them, but to talk, but to do something with them, like a discussion and like that, getting other people's ideas about it. And because it leads to sparking other ideas in all of us. So I just want to thank everyone. I think this is a good place to stop for now. We only have about a little over 5 minutes left, so we can stop here, and then we'll
Okay.
pick up next week. And I wish everyone a good, healthy week.